Welcome to this episode of the Experience Project. Today we're talking about rain gear. You would think rain gear is a pretty simple topic. You buy some rain gear, you take it on a hunt, it keeps you dry. Unfortunately, that's not the case. Rain gear can be built drastically different. The problem that rain gear has from a hunting perspective, a physical activity perspective, is that it can't be 100% waterproof in that it still needs to breathe. If we imagine if rain gear was a trash bag, if you just put a big rubber suit on, there's going to be absolutely no way for moisture to escape from your body as we're out there hiking through the mountains. So all rain gear is waterproof to a point, and that's the tricky part. Another tricky part about it is how they do the testing. You'll see, hopefully the manufacturer lists their results, but there should be a breathability testing and a waterproof testing stat. And kind of what you're looking for is like 20,000 with each of those numbers. Sometimes it could be higher, sometimes it could be lower, but 20,000 is a good benchmark of what you'll see as far as like quality rain gear between amount of water it can hold and maintain and not leak through the garment to the amount of moisture evaporation that can escape from your body to keep you dry. So we did a podcast a couple years ago with Marcel Geiser from Canis Gear, where we spent a whole hour just talking about rain gear and all the technical aspects of it. Really encourage you, if you want to kind of dive deeper into this topic, we talk about some instances we had when we were on Kodiak and all the rain gear we had failed. Like we left got dropped off by boat that morning. By the time we hiked up a couple miles and a couple thousand feet, we were completely saturated on the inside, and it wasn't just from sweat, because it was wet at the arms, wet at the places where there shouldn't be sweat, and our rain gear failed. And there was a certain like humidity level that we hit where the waterproof rain gear was not working, and that was with 3 different companies, very high-end rain gear. So something that we kind of talk about that in that podcast about how rain gear works. Highly encourage you to go listen to that. The goal for the Experience Project this year is we got 4 different sets of rain gear. We got Canis's rain gear, Caribou Chugach, Sitka Dew Point, and I also ordered a rain gear set from a company called RAB, R-A-B. It's a little bit cheaper in price, just to kind of give a comparison to outdoor backpacking companies' rain gear to these kind of high-end hunting companies' rain gear, just to throw, like maybe you could go save some money here and get the stuff that's not marketed to hunters. We'll see. I also have First Light's Omen rain gear right here. This stuff is a good example of, I have yet to find rain gear that is lightweight, that can hold up to extended days in the field, a lot of moisture, nearly as well as like the Omen stuff did. The Doll Sheep hunt I did in 2022, my buddy had this First Light Omen stuff. He stayed completely dry the entire hunt. I was using some other stuff that, kind of saturated to a point and maybe was keeping me dry, but definitely the fabric had a very clammy, damp feeling to it. Excited to kind of test all this stuff. We're going to take these 4 sets of rain gear and take them with us on caribou, moose, and mountain goat. So they're kind of pass between guys, and one hunt I'll run the Sitka stuff, one hunt I'll run the Kuiu stuff, so we all have experience, and we'll report back. It'll be a kind of a very real, full season, of use of this rain gear. We'll have 6 guys, different opinions, 6 or 7 guys by the end of it, their different opinions on them, and try to give you an answer of, usually it's never black and white, like this one's the best, but here's like, this one's the best for performance versus weight, this one's the best for cost. Hopefully give, just some educated real world examples of what we experienced on the rain gear. At the end of the day, I'm just looking for something as lightweight as possible that's still functional. I don't need a whole lot of features as far as pockets and zippers and things like that. But generally you can, everyone's a little bit different. The heavier it is, the more pockets it's going to have, the more access. I want 1 pocket maybe in the rain jacket, and I don't really care if I have pockets in the pants. The next guy, that may be a deal breaker. I think a lot of it depends on how much time you're spending out there in the field. It's obviously nice on the pants to have full zips up and down the side, so you can just put those on over your boots, over your pants, and you're not having to take your boots off while you're out in the field while it's raining. So that's a good aspect to have. You want to have I believe these 3 all have pit zips. I do not believe the RAB stuff has pit zips. So when you're hiking, you can open up the pit zip and dump a lot of heat, get a lot of moisture out that way. So that's a good way to keep you dry when you're out there as far as perspiration, sweat on the inside of the garment. Next, I'm just going to weigh this stuff just to give you an idea of the spectrum here, because it's pretty substantial. We'll start with the First Light rain gear. So it's got my scale. And again, so this First Light, super heavy duty. We've used it a bunch in Alaska. And I know it performs very well, but it comes at a pretty good weight penalty. So just this set of Omen pants, size large, everything size large. 3 pounds, 6 ounces on that. Caribou Chugach feels pretty light. 1 pound, 10 ounces. So, you know, almost a 2 pound difference there. Sitka's Dew Point, 1 pound, 7 ounces. So within an ounce of 2 pounds lighter than the stuff. So that, I mean, if you could tell me I could save 2 pounds in my pack, man, that's a that's a lot of weight. And the Canis gear, they've got knee pads and suspenders on here, so probably want to take a few ounces off of that number. This is 2 pounds, 10 ounces. So probably, let's say you take 4 or 5 ounces out of that. So, you know, 2.5 pounds roughly on the Canis gear. So just gives you an idea of you know, high performing rain gear. You could have a 2 pound difference in a set. Definitely just something you want to pay attention to. And the goal, can one of these 3 or the RAB, the 4 rain gear, perform to the level of this Omen stuff? You know, I know Sitka and Caribou, the other companies, have heavier rain gear as well that you can take, but I've got this as kind of my control, my base. I've spent enough time in the field. I know how that works. The goal is to see if some of this lighter stuff can kind of perform at that same level. We'll see. We'll report back at the end of the year. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Experience Project on rain gear. For more information, stay tuned.